Ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new reaction and review. Tonight, guys, I'm checking out a horror film from 1996. That movie is Tremors 2, Aftershocks. Now, a little story about Tremors 2. I believe, similar to the first one, I have seen most of, if not all, of Tremors 2 at some point. I do happen to remember I stopped by a friend's place about 20 years ago when the thing first, came out. I got to watch, the second half of it there. I couldn't tell you a thing about that outside of, apparently the Graboids have evolved to a point now where I think they track thermally, or they track their prey by heat as opposed to sound, or something to that effect. It guys, has been so long, I have no fucking memory. I'm certainly hoping that it's as good as the first one. The first one was shockingly fun. I'm kind of hoping for the second one to be even more fun in that same vein. I have no idea if this movie's going to be any good at all. The only way I'm going to find out, though, is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Tremors 2 Aftershocks. Alright, I have a bit of a question. This is probably a stupid question, but I'm going to ask anyway. So, this oil field in Mexico is being so ravaged by, fucking Graboids. At least that's the story. Yet, everyone's just walking around like it's nothing. So, I guess the Graboid threat really isn't that bad. If people can just walk around on bare fucking ground, have no problems at all, not even worry about a Graboid attack. The damn things are feral as shit and will go after any kind of movement. You got people fucking driving around, walking around like it's nothing. I'm wondering if this threat is really as bad as they make it out, guys. Because right now, it really doesn't seem like it's that big a fucking deal. Bert has a mounted Graboid head in his basement. That is the coolest fucking thing I think I've ever fucking seen. No, guys, seriously, that was fucking awesome. So they see that Pedro's truck is completely totaled by probably whatever the hell burst out of that dying fucking Graboid. And they just keep on walking forward towards it. Yeah. Sure, that makes total sense, guys. Go ahead and walk towards, what looks to be most certainly a gruesome, grisly scene, just because, why the fuck not? I will say, though, that it is definitely setting a really nice, creepy fucking atmosphere, so at least there's that. Alright, I got a bit of a dumb question. It's totally cool that they've caught one of these new little tiny thermo fucking sensing Graboids and they got it in a cage. Why such a flimsy cage, though? You know this thing is able to rip cars apart like it's fucking nothing. Why would you put it in a cage that is all rickety and wobbly and shit? I wouldn't trust that thing to house a puppy, much less this thing. And yet that is exactly what they're keeping it in. They're keeping it in this rickety fuck-off cage, and thankfully it's working. Don't fucking know why. You'd think they'd maybe, have designed something a little bit smarter. Bert getting all his shit from the Mexican government, you'd think maybe he'd have, gotten a high-strength cage. I don't know. I'm just taking a guess, guys. I will say, though, that the movie is definitely interesting. Well, one thing that hasn't changed, these fuckers are definitely smart. They know that their prey is on a roof somewhere, so these little guys are going to stack up and sort of form a pyramid, kind of. That's creative. And just as a comment on the CG, I honest to God thought that the CG was going to be terrible if they were going to use it. By 96 standards and by direct-to-video standards, the CG here is surprisingly good. I'm actually kind of shocked, by it. Well, guys, that was Tremors 2 Aftershocks. Let's shut that off. Okay. So, man, where to start? Why don't we start with writing, because writing is kind of sort of like a double-edged sword on this one. And that I know was also true about the first movie as well, because I said with the first movie, it had a lot of moments that were just mind-numbingly stupid, and if you just shut off your brain, you were fucking good to go, and you were ready to just rock on. The problem with this movie is not that. Believe it or not, there's very, very few moments where I stopped and went, wait a minute, that doesn't make a lot of sense. The problem here is the few rare instances when they kind of deviate from what was established in the first film. Basically, first half of the movie absolutely deviates from what was in the previous Tremors film. When I say that, what I mean is that in the first film, the Graboids were ridiculously intelligent, and any method of killing them worked exactly once. But Earl and his new buddy Grady, as well as Bert later on, are wiping out Graboids using the exact same method time and again, which is strapping dynamite to a little fucking RC truck and driving it around, which, mind you, is awesome and everything. It's just, it kind of sort of takes a whole lot of the intelligence away from the Graboids. Now, mind you, some of that kind of comes back when the Graboids burst and the little thermal guys, they never gave the little guys names. At least not in this movie. They seem to be a little bit more intelligent because they're wiping out the cars and they're wiping out the radio, but really it's just because they're feeding on anything which generates heat. But still, there is then towards the end when the little guys are stacking on top of each other in order to get to everyone who's on top of like a small oil like derrick or some kind of like a oil storage area. Which was really cool. I guess it just sort of bothered me a bit that they kind of deviated from the Graboids are shockingly intelligent thing for the first half and kind of sort of bought it back with the second half. I mean, it's minor, it's stupid. Most people are probably not going to care. I cared enough to mention. But beyond that one thing, beyond the fact that before they fucking mutate, the Graboids are far dumber here than they were in the previous film, beyond that one problem, almost everything else here is great. I will say I found it very, very clever the way that they wrote out their two biggest names who were in the previous film. Because you see, Earl is here. Earl from the first film is here. However, though, his buddy Val isn't, because Val got married after the first film and wants nothing to do with Graboids ever the fuck again. Or, if we were to take this out of the movie world and just go realistically, they couldn't afford to get Kevin Bacon, but they could totally get Fred fucking Ward, so Earl stayed and Val pissed off. And, of course, then there was Bert's wife, Heather, who apparently after the fall of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, their marriage started to fizzle a little bit because apparently when the only thing that the two of you have in common is prepping for World War III and World War III never comes, shit is going to go south. Again, that kind of translates to they either couldn't get, didn't want, or couldn't afford Reba McEntire, which is totally cool because she kind of sucked in the first movie anyway. So in terms of characters coming back, we have Bert and Earl, and that's fine. Because, shit, I would have been more than happy if it was just Bert and Earl is just sort of bonus. The story here is, instead of them being in their little canyon fucking town, now Earl has been asked to take care of Graboids that are plaguing oil. It's kind of like an oil field / oil refinery in Mexico. And he is joined by Grady, who's this like super fan of what Earl and Val and Bert did to the Graboids in the past, which is totally cool. Grady, honestly, is a likable fucking character. In fact, almost all of our new characters are awesome. I really, really like Grady and Kate. Those two, working with Bert and Earl, just make for a fantastic team, and it made this movie a fun watch. I will say that the way that they came to the Graboids mutating, morphing, or I guess kind of sort of metamorphosizing into these little thermal tracking creatures was definitely clever. It was very smartly written. I was totally digging that. Our pacing here is really solid. This movie, guys, is just strong from start to finish, and that is something that you want, especially when you are doing a sequel. One other thing which they kind of sort of do, and at the same time not. One thing that plagues a lot of sequels is just basically this problem of rehashing the previous film. And while there are moments which are totally just rehashing bits from the first movie, but altering them slightly, there's not tons of those. They actually have changed enough where it does feel like a whole new story, and the few little rehashes feel less like lazy rehash shit and more like callbacks to the previous film. Such as how people were jumping from rock to avoid Graboids in the first film. One guy tries doing that with what appeared to be empty oil fucking drums, and it doesn't work because the Graboids just punch right through oil fucking drums like they are nothing. Really, guys, writing here is a hell of a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because I know that with friggin' sequels, the best thing that you can hope for is something that's almost as good as the previous film. Rarely, if ever, is a sequel ever as good or better. And I would almost say that this is better than the first film in terms of just writing alone. Well, writing and acting. I guess I can segue directly into acting. Our acting here is amazing. However, though, we have to understand that we got the two best actors from the first film, Fred Ward and Michael, Gross, back, and the rest of our cast is ridiculously strong. So nobody here is phoning it in. There's nobody who sucks. There's no, every single actor is turning in a magnificent showing. So yeah, guys, acting here is incredibly strong, and that kind of sort of helps punctuate a very strong and funny script. I guess I can go back to writing for a sec, because one thing which made Tremors so likable was the sharp humor that they peppered in. And there's tons of that here. There's tons of awesome humor, especially with Bert constantly complaining because he was not briefed on what these things were turning into. And he keeps blaming that on Earl and Grady and everybody else, because Bert always wants to be ready, and he wants to be fucking briefed and let in on all known info. And because he was left in the dark, and the Mexican government let him take whatever in the hell he wants, so he got the most high caliber shit he could get. He was ready for Graboids. He wasn't ready for these little fuckers, and so most of it doesn't totally work. And again, all of that is written incredibly well. It's really fucking funny, and it does help punctuate our script some. God, what else can I talk about? Special effects. This movie does utilize CG, and I will say that by the standards of 1996 CG, specifically CG for low-budget direct-to-video films circa 1996, this shit is amazing. Now, this stuff certainly is not going to top any of the shit that was in theaters in '96 in terms of CG. But in terms of just the little cheap fucking cash-in shit that you throw out on VHS back then, it's great. And it's not fucking used excessively. Basically, guys, what it is when our little heat-seeking Graboids are walking, it is CG. And if it's a wide shot with multiples, there's a very strong chance that it is CG. When they are piling up as they're trying to get to everybody on the fucking roof, again, that is also CG. Is it fucking solid? Not totally. Does it fucking look, right? No, it definitely looks a little off. But that, though, is, looking a little off by today's standards. If you dial your expectations back to around 96, What is here is great. Now, mind you, what is here is still kind of solid even by fucking today's standards, considering the fact that this was probably a lower budget outing. So, you know, guys, that much is totally cool. And thankfully, we don't have a ton of CG. A lot of this is still practical effects. And holy shit, our practical effects are awesome. One thing I absolutely loved seeing every single time is when these new, you know, shrieking Graboids, when they happen to pop open their heat friggin' sensors, which is this little thing on their head, and it kind of sort of like opens up, and you see what looks almost like a brain, and it's like pulsating. And this thing here will basically open up, and it'll like pulsate like 3 times, 4 times, and it just looks so cool. All of it. I am talking, guys, the flaps coming up and the pulsating, it all looks so fucking solid. And top it off, also, our puppets everywhere look amazing. And that is everything, guys, from our full-sized fucking Graboids in the first half to our thermal shrieky ones in the second half to the tongues on them, which naturally are also all puppeteered. Puppeteering here, guys, is once more, I would almost say that it's better than what was in the first film, which is saying a lot because the puppet work in the first film was fucking masterful. This stuff tops that. What else can I talk about? Soundtrack. Oh shit. Again, this movie utilizes a very country, twangy sounding soundtrack when it's not trying to set a more horror-themed feeling. So we have a very twangy, countryish soundtrack for a lot of shots. And there is a montage of Earl and Grady blowing up Graboids, and it's set to one of my favorite songs by Travis fucking Tritt ever. And it is a song called Trouble. It sounds amazing. It's fucking awesome. I actually found myself singing along with the song and smiling as you watch all these Graboids blow up, and you just watch as their guts are fucking raining down. It's awesome. And it actually makes one scene even funnier because you then find out that they were playing the song on the fucking radio, and they left the radio on the ground, and Graboids swallowed it. And then later, you can tell that fucking Graboid is coming back because the radio is still playing, and it's still playing Trouble, which was awesome. So yes, guys, our soundtrack, at least one song on the soundtrack is fucking awesome because it's a song I absolutely fucking love. And everything else on the freaking soundtrack is awesome, and our score here is great. Our camera work is solid. Our lighting here is really decent. Oh, there is one more thing about CG I need to talk about. Like 2 things, really. One of them is the seismic monitoring setup, which looks very, very reminiscent of, say, like fucking like 1980s video games, Atari kind of shit. Looks really decent. And of course, there is when we get to see through the new, you know, Graboids, I guess, thermal vision. A lot of that looks pretty good. Now, mind you, it doesn't look anywhere near as good as the thermal shit you see in like Predator. But it still looks really fucking good, and it is worth mentioning in like the 2 or 3 times, in like the 2 or 3 shots that you see it. Ultimately, guys, when all is said and done, I'm able to recommend Tremors 2 Aftershocks. Oh, fuck yes. I recommend it even more than Tremors fucking 1. However, it honestly, guys, is like the kind of thing where you could totally watch them both back to fucking back and just have an awesome like 3-hour party just right there. I can definitely recommend it. The movie is fantastic, and I'm kind of hoping that the sequels continue this slight upward fucking slope because then that gives me high hopes on part fucking 5. But yes, guys, if you have not seen Tremors 2 Aftershocks, by all means check it out. Find it, rent it, download it. Don't care, or fuck, guys, right now, this thing right here, this fucking 4-pack, is looking better and better with every passing film, and you can probably get this thing now for probably about $10. So definitely, at least, if if for nothing else, at least for the first two, it's definitely worth every cent. Yes, I can recommend Tremors 2. The movie is awesome. Speaking of this 4-pack, Tremors 2 Aftershocks came off the Amazon wish list. The person who sent it in was Scorp. You can find his YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Scorpion104. Scorp, dude, I thank you. I had no idea if Tremors 2 was going to be any good at all. In fact, I actually have been putting off filming this for about 2, maybe 3 days, because I just had dread that it was going to be a sequel. It just went right down fucking hill. But no, it was fucking solid, and I would not have known that if you hadn't sent it in, dude, and for that I thank you. You're fucking awesome. Once more, that is youtube.com/user/Scorpion104. And you know, guys, after watching a sequel with this much of a quality jump, I remember 2 other sequels from my childhood that also were marginally better than the previous film. Well, no, there's one that's marginally better, one that's a little bit even. Those two are Gremlins 2 and Ghostbusters 2. And you know what? I feel like watching both of those right the fuck now. So I'm going to go watch both of those, and I am looking forward to Tremors 3. Good Lord, I hope beyond hope that it is at least as good as Tremors 2. And with that, my friends, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.